Hey there, Aubrey. How's it going today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be on the mic with you. I love our recording days. They're my favorite part of my day.
I know, same. And I'm so excited for today's because we are talking about road trips, which
Yes,
are one of my favorite things. And I know you love road trips too, right, Lindsay?
I love road trips. I just took a road trip to New Mexico last weekend.
Oh,
Yeah.
so fun. I live so close to New Mexico. We should have met up.
I didn't know. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, we were in Taos, New Mexico. So
Oh,
very
I've actually
cool.
never been. I
Yeah.
live in the state neighboring New Mexico, you guys, and I've never been to New Mexico. It's a crying shame.
It's just there's so much wild nature. It kind of reminds me of Utah a little bit. Just the
Mhm.
wind and the sun, the elements just really get you. But that's what road trips are about, right, Aubrey? Being out in the world
Yes.
with the elements. Yeah.
Right? Being able to see all the landscape between where
Yes.
you live and where you're going. And it's so fascinating sometimes how quick it will change, right?
I
When you're
know.
in Utah and you go from these red cliffs and then immediately you'll be so fast in like a desert or, it just changes so quickly. It's fascinating.
Yeah, there's nothing more American too, right? It's really in our cultural values. Nothing more American than the cross country road trip.
It's so true. It's the classic American, especially because we can go on a 2-day road trip and
Yeah.
see so many interesting things. And I know this is, really popular in other cultures too. I know in Europe, they'll take really cool road trips. I drove once from Belgium down to Spain, and that's awesome. But you're
Yes.
right. It's so American. Americans love their road trips.
I love it. And guys, a little bit later in the episode, you want to listen up because we're going to show you how you can take a road trip with us, with me in the car by video lesson, guys. All right. But we want to refer our listeners to another episode about road trips, right, Aubrey? What was that
Yes, this
episode?
is a really fun one that you and Michelle recorded
Yes.
recently, episode 1772, American Road Trip Games. And this is vital for any road trip that you guys are prepared with some fun games. This is my favorite part of a road trip to play some
Yes.
really fun games in the car because you're going to have a lot of hours to drive. So make them fun.
Yeah, and I know you're a real game person, Aubrey. So I'm not surprised that you like to play games on a road trip for sure. For sure. For me,
It's
I
so
listen to
true.
podcasts. Like I'm all about the pod. Games are okay, but I want to listen to podcasts, maybe music, but more podcasts
Oh,
actually.
we might have a hard time, you and I, on a road trip with. No,
Yes.
I'm just like, I'll take a few hours of podcast and then I'll be like,
Uh-huh.
okay, let's take a break and play a fun game. I just
Yeah,
like to switch it up.
that's good. That's good that you switch it up.
For sure. But we're diving into some really fun vocab today for idioms about road trips that you
Yes.
guys are going to need. If the best way to use these, if you're going to chat with a coworker at work or a friend to ask them about an upcoming road trip, or maybe one they took recently, these are really fun idioms to sound more native and natural when you do that.
Exactly. Because, guys, sometimes road trips are not the 2 month journey, right? That I took that you could take with us later. When you hear about that, but sometimes they're just a weekend trip, right? And that is also a road trip. And that means people are coming back to work Monday morning. And what are you going to say to them to ask about that trip? That's the key, right, Aubrey?
Yes. And you should, right? What a great way to build
Yeah.
connection. If someone lets you know on Thursday or Friday they're going on a road trip, plan
Yes.
on asking them about it Monday because they're going to have fun stories to share. This is a great way to connect.
It's so fun. Oh, now I wish it was last Friday because about this time last Friday, we were hitting the road for New Mexico. Now I feel like I want to go back a week. Do you ever get that feeling? Like you want to go
Yes.
back because
Rewind.
you were just at the Grand Canyon.
Yes, I just took a road trip. It's only a few hours drive for me, but to the
Oh,
Grand Canyon, and I hiked the
yes.
Grand Canyon. And for multiple reasons, I would like to rewind time to the day before I went because I'm now suffering the consequences. It's no joke hiking the Grand Canyon. It's like 8 miles straight down.
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
losing toenails.
Oh,
I'm still sore.
you
And then
lost toenail. You actually
yes,
lost
I have
toenails.
one that's like falling off.
Oh
It's
my
really terrible. I wasn't
gosh.
as prepared as I needed to be. The girls I went with are avid hikers. They go on lots of long hikes,
Okay, that
and
was a
I hadn't as
mistake.
much. So my body wasn't ready. My knees made me feel like a grandma. They hurt
Oh
so much
no.
after a
Okay.
few miles going down. And I even had hiking poles.
Okay, we're
Still
going to have
hurts
to
so
hear
bad.
more about this over the next couple of weeks on the podcast. I love this. It's a classic mistake, right? It's good that you had the polls, but going with a group that's a lot more advanced can be a real mistake, but you only realize it when you're halfway through the hike.
Exactly. Right. I'm like, can we slow down? Can we take a break? Oh, so funny.
Okay,
But
I
yes,
love
it
it.
was a fun road trip going up there. The Grand Canyon is just beautiful. If you follow us
Yes.
on social media, you probably saw a couple of my posts just showing it. It's absolutely breathtaking. But the
Unbelievable.
part, like, I feel like one of the most fun parts of it was the road trip driving. We played some really fun games. We got all these
Yeah.
great snacks.
Yeah.
And I loved you used that phrase, hit the road, right?
Yeah.
The best moment is when you're about to hit the road and you have all this anticipation. It's
It's
so
such a good
exciting.
feeling. You
And
put your
it's such a fun
sunglasses
idiom.
on. Yeah, it's so good. It is so good. So when it comes to connecting with your colleagues or your friends, guys, in English, talking to a native speaker, the journey for them is often just as much, the adventure is the journey too. It's the trip there
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
the actual thing they did when they got there, right? Or it's just the trip. Sometimes we just take a trip to take a trip. So this is very good stuff you can use with native speakers. Yeah.
Yes. So you can ask them if someone let you know that they're going to take a road trip. This is a great phrase when they come back to say, oh, you said you're going to hit the road this weekend. How
Yeah.
was it? Instead of saying, you told me you were going to go on a road trip, use this phrase, hit the road. This idiom means the same thing as going for a drive, taking a road trip,
Yes.
but so native and natural.
Yeah. And a spontaneous example that comes up is, if you got the message that someone was a little delayed, maybe they were trying to get out of the office and they were rushing, you could ask them, oh, what time did you finally hit the road on Friday?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I say that a
Yeah.
lot, right? Like, oh, what time did
Yes.
we? Or if you're traveling with other people and you're like trying to coordinate,
Yes.
I'd say this all the time. Like, what time did you guys hit the road?
Yeah.
Asking what time they began their trip.
Right. Because on this show, guys, we like to show you ways that make things sound more casual and less direct, right? What's the other option? What time did you leave? It's kind of boring. It's kind of textbook, right, Aubrey?
Yes. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
almost too formal too.
Too
When you're chatting with
formal.
friends, coworkers, about a road trip, you want to keep it very informal. That's the best way to build connections. So using
Yeah.
idioms, slang, phrasal verbs, this is much more informal and natural. That's the best way to build connections.
Right. Or another scenario would be if you are meeting another couple that's joining you on a road trip and they show up late. You don't want to say, what time did you leave? Right. Now you
Oh,
could say,
true.
oh, did you hit some traffic? What time did you hit the road? Right.
I
So,
know that's a little almost accusatory to say, what time did you
yes.
leave?
Yes.
Why did
So
you leave late?
exactly. So, guys, this is, write this phrase down. This is probably going to be highlighted in our iOS Android app as well. So make sure you get this into your vocabulary, guys.
Definitely. Yeah. And keep in mind, even if someone hasn't told you they're about to take a road trip, this is just a fun thing to talk about. So you could
Yes.
also say, like, when's the last time you hit the road? Or
Yeah.
what's the best road trip you've taken? Right. So
Yeah.
just to ask them about road trips at some point in the past or when they're going to take one in the future doesn't have to be reserved just for when someone just got back from one.
I love it. I love it. So good, guys. So write that one down. Let's go into the next one, Aubrey. What is the next one?
Yes, is to get off the beaten track, which
Yeah.
this is interesting because I grew up saying get off the beaten path, but looking it up online, Google everywhere says get off the beaten track. What do you say, Lindsay?
Yeah. I think for me, get off the beaten. That's a good
They
question.
both sound
Path.
right.
I think I actually grew up saying path, get off the beaten path.
Me too. So I had just written that get
Yes.
off the beaten path. And then I was kind of looking around and online, you'll see get off the beaten track. So I'm
Okay.
really curious where that's said more often. If that's what Google shares, then that's clearly
Interesting.
very common.
You're going to have to
But yeah,
survey
where
all
I
our
grew up
friends
in
here.
Idaho, we said
Uh-huh.
get off the beaten path.
Okay. So guys, because natives say it differently, you can use either, right? Don't get stuck
Totally.
on little things like that, right? Say one of them, say both of them, take your
Yep.
pick. I
You'll
love
hear
it.
both. You're going to hear both on
Yeah.
TV. You're going to hear friends say both. They clearly both are
Yeah.
acceptable. We know what you mean. And this is a really fun one to just talk about going somewhere that not every tourist sees, right? The Grand
Yes.
Canyon was not really getting off the beaten path
No, no,
because
no,
lots
no.
of tourists, which was fun to hear all these languages from all over the world from the different hikers. I loved that. But there are definitely places that are more like hidden that not
Right.
everyone knows about that are more off the beaten path.
Right. But wouldn't you say just the fact that you hiked it, you got off the beaten path a little bit? I mean,
That's a
most
good
tourists
point.
don't hike the Grand Canyon. Most
That's
people
true. Most
stand at the
tourists
top and
were
look
up on
down.
the rim, just
Yes.
looking down in. So
Right.
by the time I got to the bottom, then I was definitely off the beaten path, literally.
Sure. And that's the reward, right? The reward of being like a hiker, a through hiker, in and out hiker, backpacking. You get to see the places that your average everyday tourist will not go to.
Yes,
So,
it's so true. Not everybody gets down to the Colorado River. I
no,
sat in it. I put my feet in.
I
What
bet you
was
did.
crazy, Lindsay, I don't know if I had never thought about this. It's so much hotter at the bottom because at the top it's
Yeah,
5,000 feet higher. So it's
of
like being in the mountains where
course.
it's cooler. And then you hike down and it's the same temperature
Mm,
as Phoenix. And it was just, I just sort of had never
interesting.
thought about how that would happen. So it was
Yeah.
so hot. It was 102 degrees at the bottom.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You are not prepared for what
I
I'm
was not
hearing
prepared.
here. Okay. I love
I
this.
like
No.
laid in the river, in the Colorado River, because I was so hot and sweaty.
That's hilarious. I love it. And yeah, this is a typical I mean, a very common place to go. Again, the Grand Canyon, right? And guys, in the Connected Communicator course, which you'll hear about in a few minutes, how do you actually get that? I take you off the beaten path. I take you to southern Utah. I remember being in kind of near, I think, Monument Valley or Canyonlands,
Oh,
where there's
yes.
no one, it's sunset. I'm in a remote corner of the park and there's just no one around, but you guys are with me on the video. It's really,
Yes.
really cool.
It's so cool. I went somewhere near there. It's called Goblin Valley,
I
near kind
love
of near
it.
Moab through Monument Valley. There was nobody around. It was
Oh,
so cool. I love getting off the beaten path like that,
yeah.
seeing places that not everybody sees. So cool.
Yeah. And there's something about Utah, about southern Utah, that just is so raw and so natural and so beautiful. I think it's the
It's
rock
stunning.
formations, the red
Mhm.
rocks. Guys, you can't miss it. It is fantastic. So let's move on to the next one, Aubrey. What do you think?
Yeah. So this is living out of a suitcase.
Okay.
And that just means you're traveling. You're not somewhere where you're going to be there long enough to unpack and put things in like dresser drawers. You just leave everything in your suitcase, literally
Yes.
living out of the suitcase. But we'll say this, or like, oh, I'm going to live out of a suitcase for the next couple of weeks,
Yeah.
meaning I'm going on a fun trip. And then you could ask them, oh, fun, where are you going?
Yeah. And is that what you usually do? Because I know during the summers you go up to Idaho with your family. Do you actually live out of the suitcase while you're there? Do you unpack?
Yes, I've done both. There are a couple years where we're there almost a month and I'll live out of the suitcase and then really regret
Oof,
it because the suitcase ends up like
all over the
exploding
floor.
all over the room and it's
Yeah.
just a huge mess. It's really hard
Yeah.
to stay organized. So I try
Mm.
to just live out of a suitcase for trips that are like a few days. And if I'm going
Yes.
to be there longer than a week, I'm putting things in dresser drawers or it's going to be a hot mess.
Oh, for sure. I don't like having to dig through and not being able to find anything. I like to kind of
Right.
settle in and make myself feel like I have a new home, right? I love that.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
So
This
to
is really
live,
a fun, like just the thought of living out of a suitcase because you know you're somewhere fun. You know you're
yes.
traveling. You're only staying somewhere for a couple of days, so there's sort
Yeah.
of a feeling of excitement about living out of a suitcase, right?
There is absolutely brings back memories for me of my days traveling through South America, backpacking. And those backpacks, you've done some of this.
Oh
They
yeah.
don't open in any other way. So you have to dig under everything to get anything out. It is so impractical. It's
Yes, so
ridiculous.
true. And it's kind of related to our last one here, traveling
Uh-huh.
light, which means not overpacking, traveling the bare minimum, like you do when you're backpacking around Europe, because you
Mm,
just cannot carry more weight. If you bring anything extra, you're going to end up ditching it. You
yes.
really need to travel light if you're backpacking.
Yeah. What is that saying they have where they say when you're packing, take all the clothes you've laid out, get rid of half of them. Like don't take half of them and take double the money, right?
Oh, that's funny. Take money to do laundry if you need to.
Right, exactly. Or just to buy socks or
Mhm.
something,
Are you
don't
an
bring all that
overpacker,
stuff.
Lindsay? Maybe not when
Oh God,
backpacking, but like your Santa Fe trip. Did you use everything you packed or did you have extra things?
I'm such a bad packer. I packed the wrong things. So I realized for my
Mm.
Santa Fe, for my Taos trip, I didn't pack a t-shirt for Saturday afternoon after our hike. Like I packed all this, for the hike and enough like, jackets in case it's cold. I didn't pack a t-shirt just to hang out. So I don't pack any of the right things and too much of the wrong things, sadly.
Gotcha. I just overpack. We'll go up to my in-laws' cabin,
Uh-huh.
and we all usually end up having a fire in
Yeah,
the house. So everything
fun.
ends up smelling smoky.
I love that.
And the bags, when we get home, will be full of things that we didn't wear, but I still have to
You
wash
have to
because
wash it all.
everything's smoky. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
why? Why did I pack extra anything?
a lot of laundry for sure. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. This is so fun, guys. These are the kind of conversations you're going to have with your native speaking colleagues and friends if you open up this vocabulary with them, right? It's so
Yes.
good for connection.
Yes, exactly. I feel closer to you, Lindsay, just from having this conversation. And
Absolutely.
anytime I chat with a friend about a road trip they've taken or travel, we always like bond. I just feel like we're closer friends. We've been able to chat about something really fun and interesting. They've been able to share about a cool place they went. Everyone loves that. They
Yep.
want to share.
It is so true. I love it. So good. Let's do a role play, Aubrey. All
So
right.
you and I are friends discussing our summer plans. I'll
Yeah.
go ahead and start us.
Perfect. Okay. Go for it.
Any fun plans this summer?
Yes. We are going to hit the road. We're planning to drive up the coast from Arizona to Washington.
That's amazing. I drove that once and it was so cool to get off the beaten track. Are you going to see the redwoods?
Oh, definitely. I can't wait. We're going to camp a lot. So we'll for sure need to travel light.
Oh, yeah. When we went, I lived out of a suitcase for 2 weeks.
Well, I hope you at least found showers along the way.
Nice. I love that. Like
Very
maybe I
good.
didn't for 2 weeks.
Yes, I love it.
Smelly.
I love it. I love it. Did we use any of the vocabulary here in the role play today or not as
Yes,
much?
the
Yes.
first thing you
Mhm.
said was hit the road, right?
Hit
I've
the
asked if you had
road.
fun plans and you said, yes, we're going to hit the road. And then you
Yes.
explained what you're doing, right? It would be kind of weird to say that and then stop. You would
Yes.
definitely share, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
I love it. And then you said, that's amazing. I drove that once and it was amazing to get off the beaten track. But I like how, by the way, during the conversation, you switched the word instead of saying amazing twice in the same sentence, which we obviously want to avoid, guys. What did you say
Yes.
instead? It was cool or
I
it
think
was
super cool,
super
something like
cool.
that. Yes, when I
Yeah.
had written the role play, I had accidentally put amazing twice, but
Yeah.
I felt it. I'm like, oh, you don't want to repeat an
Yes.
adjective like that. So I switched it. I'm like, oh, and it was super cool to get off the beaten track. You guys
Yeah.
want to do the same thing. If ever you're finding yourself repeating a word like amazing, say something else. We all know that
Yeah.
person who says amazing over and over and over and over. Don't be that
Yeah.
person.
And I think we were going to do an episode on that someday, right, Aubrey? We talked about that last time that we're going to try to do an episode at some point on that, right? Don't be the person that repeats the same adjective or even noun in the same sentence over, especially adjectives over and over. It's boring.
Yeah, it's so easy to
It's
do and not
tacky.
even realize you're doing it, right?
Yes.
That's why we do focus quite a bit on vocabulary because you need such a wide range of vocabulary in order to have the tools to not have to
Yes.
repeat the same words over and over because
Yes.
it can get annoying.
It can get really annoying. All right. So and then the last thing we did here was I said, definitely, I can't wait. We're going to camp a lot. So we'll for sure need to travel light. Right, Aubrey?
Yes. And then I said, oh, I lived out of the suitcase for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Right. These are such fun phrases. You can see how this is totally normal to use all four in this very quick exchange with a friend or a coworker. And you're using so much native, interesting vocabulary.
Yes, I love it. So what's the takeaway for our listeners real quick today, Aubrey?
Yes, you guys, summer is the season for road trips. We are hitting it. It's time. Hopefully you guys have a fun road trip planned. We want you to be able to use today's fun idioms to ask a friend or a coworker about their summer plans. Ask if they have a road trip coming up.
Yeah, guys, a big part of connecting with people in a new culture is understanding what they value. And a lot of people in the US do value hitting the road, right? So ask them about it, go and do it yourself, play those road trip games from the other episode and just get into it. So good.
Yes, exactly. And for the ultimate cross-country road trip in the US with Lindsay and Jessica, guys, sign up for Connected Communicator. It is the most fun.
Yeah, we hope to see you guys in that course very soon. All right, Aubrey, thanks for hanging out today. It's been great.
Yep. See you later.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.